I think one of the hardest things when you have an alcoholic in the family is just the repeated over and over and over again the failures that they go through and really suffering along with them right beside them because you have so much, emotional you've put so much emotional energy into getting them to be successful, and you're trying to help them and support them, and yet they fail over and over and over again. And if this is the first time seeing me, well, I was married for 25 years, and my wife unfortunately passed away from alcohol use disorder a little over 4.5 years ago. And she actually went to 7 rehabs. She had 4 DUIs, many emergency stays, outpatient stays, and psych holds. And it was a very arduous and difficult journey, certainly for her, and myself as her spouse. It was very, very difficult. And I think, to circle back to what we started with, it's really grueling, specifically for the family, because you're rooting for that person and they continue to fail. And I think it was specifically difficult in my case because there was always so much hope when she, went to a rehab. You're like, this is going to be the time where they get it into recovery. And I would visit her, the second, third, and fourth weeks in a 30-day inpatient stay because the family would cook. They'd have a family Sunday weekend, and it was so nice to have her back because she would be her, bubbly, vivacious, happy self that she was naturally. And unfortunately, the alcohol always took that away. So it was always uplifting, and by the time she was ready to leave at the fourth week, I mean, she was like, wow, she's back. Great, she's back. This is it. This might be it. And she'd come home. And a lot of times we were very supportive. We'd have a sign over the door, welcome back, and flowers. And sometimes, by the fifth, sixth, or seventh one, we weren't too into it as much because we were very guarded. And I think the hardest thing was when she did fail. And for a family member, it's absolutely the worst feeling in the world. I mean, I would remember coming home, driving in the driveway, walking in the house, and again, you could just feel that energy. There's something different, even before you walked in the door, because just the movement. She wasn't moving around, and you'd walk in, and she'd be sitting on the couch, and your whole body would just go, oh, something's wrong here. And you'd walk up to her, and she'd look at you, and she'd be glassy-eyed. And you could just tell. I mean, if you're around it enough, you just know. And you go, have you been drinking? And of course she would deny, oh, no. And I go, look, I mean, I can tell you have. Why? I mean, we just went through, a month of rehab. You've been out for 3 weeks. You haven't gone to your AA, your Smart Recovery. You haven't gone to your group therapy meetings. What's your plan? She goes, well, I'm not drinking. I'm fine. And then I'd push back the pillow, and there'd be a beer sitting right next to her. She'd go, ah. And then she'd try to gaslight me, like, well, it was just, I've only had a couple. It's no big deal. And and your heart would just sink. It would just sink. And I completely understand, the alcoholic mentality. I mean, I know it's an addiction, and it takes a mental fortitude to get through that. I get that. But on the family side, it's so heartbreaking to see them fail over and over and over again. In fact, they not only fail, it continually gets worse and worse, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And to go through that as a family member, well, there comes a point where, you do have to take care of your own mental health, and you do need to make plans for your own future, because it may be a future without that person, no matter what the relationship, son or daughter, spouse, parent, uncle, friend. There's only so far you can go down that road, and in the perspective from the family, it's important to realize you got to take care of yourself, and there comes a point where you got to make yourself a priority. You have to recognize the codependency, and certainly enabling if there's any of that going on, and recognizing your role you play in the alcoholic's life. And hopefully, if there's people who are in that situation, families and alcoholics, they recognize, the depletion that they have on their family, and the family understands how it affects them. And sadly, if you don't know, my whole story, my wife did end up going to 7 rehabs, really 6, because she was only in her 7th rehab one day, and she fell down a flight of stairs the first day she was there, and then she was placed into UCLA. I had her in LA, and she was in ICU for 28 days. And by then, I mean, her body was so broken down. I mean, every organ in her body, liver, heart, lungs, pancreas, esophagus, intestinal tract, and then I believe she had wet brain as well. I mean, her entire body just really couldn't handle the weight and the stress of the alcohol. And I know so many families go through this. It's not a unique experience, and so many people go through this. And I talk about it because it needs to be talked about. It needs to really be shouted from the mountains, okay, from the rooftops and from the mountaintops. It's not something that we should keep underneath the rug. And my goal is that it gets recognized and that it helps other families. And again, I go live Monday through Friday, right around 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We also have the Facebook group. It's called There's an Alcoholic in the Family. Link is in the bio in my link tree. And also, Amanda's book, her memoir, Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism, will be out the week after the United States presidential elections. Be about mid-November. So we're looking about 4 weeks out from right where we are right now. And again, when you're ready to work with me one-on-one, I have the coaching program. I help families and their alcoholic loved one. Set up a call. It's called the Breakthrough Call, and we will, I want people who are ready to change their lives and the lives of their family. And again, thanks so much for listening.